I like that no matter where you go, there's a version of chicken soup, and it just so happens that in Sierra Leone, it will burn your tongue off. Hi, I'm Beryl, and the theme for today's video is soups for when you're sick. I have been battling a cold for a couple of months, so this is also slightly self-serving. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp, and the artist today is Katarina Voronina. She's a Russian illustrator from Moscow, living in Berlin. She's an illustrator who just works for magazines and books, but also huge murals on the sides of buildings like this one. Very cool. I'm leaving a link in the description to where you can check out her work. Today, we've got soups from Sierra Leone, Malaysia, a vegan soup from Canada, a Jewish chicken soup, and a Korean porridge. I know a lot of you have asked about how Asha's doing. She's doing better. Thank you so much for all your kind words. She's recovering and we're just letting her sleep a lot. She's a little snorty still. Okay, you can go back to bed. Okay, let's do the soups.
My name is Vina and I'm tuning in from Burnaby. Today I want to talk about this dish called chicken and rice porridge. It's a Korean dish and the Korean name is dakjuk. So dakjuk is this hearty, wholesome bowl of rice porridge made from chicken soup that had been cooking on the stove for a while. It just melts on your tongue. This is the perfect dish for when you need some warm comfort or if you're hit with a seasonal cold. The flavors aren't so harsh so that they're overwhelming you, especially if you're feeling a little bit under the weather. It doesn't take a lot of work to make, just a bit of time. All you gotta do is add everything into a big pot and wait. Relax while you do it. I grew up in a Vietnamese family and rice porridge is the go-to comfort food to regain your strength. Making someone rice porridge is our love language. It's like giving someone a really big hug, but you give it to them in a bowl of food that you're supposed to eat. It's pretty great. When my partner and I first got together, I suddenly got sick. I was out with a fever in his bedroom sleeping, and I remember just like waking up to this wonderful, wonderful smell of chicken and ginger and garlic. I was so touched. He was actually really new to cooking, and so I imagine that it was a little bit difficult to make this as a new home cook. And I remember with every bite, it felt like my body was being rejuvenated bit by bit. One of the few joys that I have the luxury to experience pretty much every day is sharing a meal with my partner and my roommates. I think of food as a way to tell a story. When I share my food, I share an extension of myself, my memories, my ancestors. It's like my love language. And I feel so privileged to have such good people in my life, to be able to share food in my own life.
So my first dish is this Korean style congee, I would say. It really reminds me of the sick food dish actually that I did from Singapore where I had the century egg. And this time I didn't use a century egg, I just have a normal chicken egg, but I am so excited about the obscene amount of garlic in this. I'm a huge garlic fan. Oh yeah. I didn't grow up in a rice household, and honestly, it really wasn't until this channel that I was introduced to these types of congees. I am obsessed. It is like the most perfect savory porridge you could ever want in your entire life. I hate American sweet oatmeals. This is so freaking perfect. Wow, the garlic, you would think that it would be really garlicky, but it's not. It's like perfectly garlicky. And the rice is mushy in this beautiful, perfect way where it feels like silk almost in your mouth. I put some of my favorite chili oil crunch on it that's made by this lovely woman who I've talked about before. I will leave a link to it if you want to try it. Honestly, it's the best. Some of you may have noticed that Vina and I have a pretty similar setup, and I was messaging her about her game collection, and she said that it was her roommates, but that I was invited over to play. So Be careful, because it might show up. I hope that by the end of this video, I'm not sick anymore. It feels like after 5 dishes made to make you feel better, I should be on the mend, right? Right? Clean Plate Club. I love it. So delicious. Sick or not sick, this is definitely something that I really recommend trying because of its simplicity and deliciousity. Let's do a quick word from the sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online counseling service. You may recognize the name because I have worked with them in the past. I am a firm believer that taking care of your mental health is an incredibly important thing to do, and there are a lot of ways to do that. No matter where you are in the world, BetterHelp is a really easy way to get paired with a professionally licensed therapist. They have a huge network, so if the first one that you're paired with doesn't work, you can switch to find another one. Finding a good therapist is like online dating. You kind of have to go through a few before you find a person who feels like your person. Because the sessions are all online, you don't have to travel anywhere, which is really nice. And if you're somebody like me, where you live in a really big city, therapy can be extraordinarily expensive. So having a way to do it online is a way to save a little money and make it more affordable. If you're interested, you can go to betterhelp.com, that's HELP, and use my code BERYL. It's not an affiliate link, but it is a way to give you 10% off your first month. Okay, with that, we're gonna have some more soups.
Hi, my name is Brian, and I live in New York City in the USA. The dish I want to share with you today is matzo ball soup. Matzo balls are ball-shaped dumplings made from a type of unleavened bread called matzah. They can vary in size depending on who makes them, from golf ball size to baseball size, but they're always served in chicken broth. I think what makes matzo ball soup such a perfect food for when you're sick is just how easy it is to eat and enjoy. The matzo balls are soft and pillowy with a mild flavor, and it's filling without feeling heavy. The warm and simple broth will chase any chills you have away. Matzo ball soup isn't hard to make, but it can be time-consuming and a little bit involved. But as an adult living in New York City, it's pretty easy to get it delivered. When my husband and I are feeling sick, it's always just a few clicks away, and even though it might not be homemade, it's still an expression of love. Matzo ball soup is traditionally made as an appetizer for the holiday in Passover. During Passover, you're supposed to do several different things that have great symbolic meaning, but most importantly, you're not supposed to eat leavened bread. Instead, we eat something called matzah. It's basically a big, mostly flavorless cracker that's supposed to remind us of when the Jewish people fled from Egypt and didn't have our time for our bread to rise before baking in the hot sun. Matzah itself is quite bland and boring, and some would compare it to eating cardboard. But matzo ball soup transforms it into so much more. The first time I made matzo ball soup, I was studying abroad in Italy. It was around Passover, and I was feeling a little sad to miss out on some of my favorite foods. A good friend of mine had just gotten horrible news that her grandfather had passed away. At that moment, I decided I would make her matzo ball soup, because I was missing it, and it really is such a comforting dish that reminds me of family, and I wanted to share that with her. And while this friend and I have lost touch over the years, the story reminds me so much of why I love to cook. It's not just to eat delicious things, but it's to share them with our loved ones. Even when you're not sick, matzo ball soup is a great dish for all the same reasons it's great when you're sick. It's warm and comforting, but also simple and easy to enjoy. I think foods have a way of transporting us to places we've been in our life. It's a way of sharing those special times with someone who wasn't there, and it's a way of showing affection and care for the people around us. And I think spending time to make something special for someone else is just a really great way to show that you appreciate them.
Yes, I made these matzo balls. I am so impressed with myself. It doesn't matter that it came from a box mix. They're so fluffy. Oh my god. These taste better than my mom's. Mom, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but it's true. Oh my god. They're so light. It's funny, Brian called them dumplings. I guess I always thought of them in more of like the meatball category, only that they were made out of matzo meal. Oftentimes we call matzo ball soup Jewish penicillin because it just cures you of everything. When I first fell sick, I actually did order matzo ball soup to be delivered. You don't need to make your own stock. You don't even need to make your own matzo mix. And you can have, honestly, perfectly delicious matzo ball soup. I used canned chicken broth and like instant mix. I'm sure a lot of old Jewish grandmothers are rolling over in their graves at that statement. However, It works and it's delicious and it made it so much more accessible. So I'm okay with it. There's something special about a simple broth with soft celery, soft carrots, and one big, nice, I'm describing matzo ball soup. I just like matzo ball soup. I made a bowl for my neighbor as well, and she loved it. My neighbor gets all of the foods I make. In case you're wondering what happens with all the extras, I bring them next door. Brian said something that you have probably already heard echoed, not only in this video, but other videos, but I think especially with these sick foods, that cooking is a sign of love, and it's something that we all do for one another. There is this universal way to show that you care. Even if we don't share language, we do share that.
My name is Kari, and I am from Texas in the US, but I was originally born and partially raised in the West African country of Sierra Leone. The soup that I want to introduce to you today is called pepe soup. Pepe soup is a brothy soup that's made with fish or sometimes even chicken, but I believe traditionally it's made with goat meat. It's a beautiful, spicy, kind of kick you in your gut and in your chest type of soup. It's a soup that's not for the faint of heart at all, because one of the main ingredients in this soup is habanero peppers. We like to say the more peppers, the better. It's a soup that is pretty well known in the West African countries, and I'm sure many West African countries have their own way of preparing it. Our way of preparing it is with the onions, the peppers, and the meats and maggi for seasoning. It's a comforting dish. It's a dish that always makes me think of my grandmother, because she would be the one that makes me pepper soup. When I'm sick, I can just call her and, just ask her, hey, Ina, can you make me some pepper soup? And she's like, oh yeah, of course. Honestly, I feel like I swear by it. Anytime I feel any itch in my throat, any sinus pressure, and anything like that, the first thing that I'm thinking of is making pepper soup with ginger and garlic and all the good stuff. I wake up in the next morning, or even a couple of hours later, my sinuses are clear and my throat is not itchy anymore, and I feel like I've been cured because of pepper soup. I hope you get an opportunity to try it, and make sure that you have a lot of water with you or some milk, because you might need it, because the spice does kick quite a bit, but it's delicious. And also, pro tip, I would advise you to squeeze some lime on there. Trust me, you'll thank me later, okay?
Yeah, I brought milk. I put 3 of those habanero peppers in this. I wasn't messing around. My sinuses today feel like they are going to bust out of my face, so it truly was kismet that I have this dish. I have never made a dish from Sierra Leone in general. I haven't cooked much cuisine from West Africa, but I'm ready. I'm gonna put some lemon on it first. I'm a little nervous. Oh yeah, this is gonna be okay. It's like a slow and steady tingle. My mouth is it's salivating so much right now because of the spice. This is delicious. I need some starch. Come here, plantain. I'm gonna get some potato as well. Oh boy. Oh my god, it's so spicy. Oh my god, I'm really sweating. I'm gonna put my hair up. We gotta put this up. It's hot. I would say that this definitely tastes tomatoey. The starches aren't giving it that much flavor. I think most of the flavor is actually coming from the chicken that I use. I use chicken drumsticks. And from, the peppers and the seasoning. I like that no matter where you go, there's a version of chicken soup, and it just so happens that in Sierra Leone, it will burn your tongue off. My ears are like popping. I think this soup is working. Okay, I had this terrible sinus headache and my ears are now popping. My nose is finally running. I'm not just like It works? I mean, maybe it's the spice, right?
My name is Amanda, and I'm coming to you from the unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people on Turtle Island, which is also known as Vancouver in Canada. And the recipe that I want to share today is for a vegan chicken and rice soup. It's just kind of made with like carrot and onion and celery and garlic, and instead of chicken it uses vital wheat gluten to make a dough that will soak up the broth and kind of have like the texture of pieces of chicken. This kind of soup, like, I don't really know if it's actually healing for you in any way, maybe the garlic, but whenever I eat it when I'm sick or kind of like, I don't know, nostalgic for childhood, it always just kind of makes me feel better. Also, it's soup, and I think soup just always feels good when you're sick. This soup was made for me all the time when I was a kid. Either days when I was home from school, I'd always like be curled up on the couch with my mom and she would just make me chicken and rice soup and we would watch soap operas. Those memories, for some reason, all these years later, like still really stick with me and kind of give me like this nice warm feeling, and just remembering those days when I didn't feel very well and having someone comfort you and make you food is just so special. I think it's kind of important to be able to translate these kind of recipes into versions that I can eat today. The thing is that I've been vegan now for close to 16 years, and so when I was first vegan I actually found this recipe in a cookbook, and over the years I've modified it kind of to my own taste. I feel like food, especially when you're sick, it always feels nice to have somebody make it for you, and it feels like people really care, and I'm so happy that I can share this recipe with all of you. So much love to you all. Peace.
We have a vegan soup, and I feel like the only thing about this that feels vegan is that wheat gluten. Otherwise it just kind of feels like a typical soup. I have never worked with wheat gluten before, and it had a very interesting texture, that's for sure. Kind of gummy. So on its own, it's really nice. It's like a lemony vegetable broth. The rice is really nice. It's classic, you know, but obviously I feel like I need to try where is it? Okay, here it is. This is the wheat gluten that's meant to mimic chicken. I don't love it. However, I feel like you could get the same thing with a big mushroom, like a wild mushroom that you rehydrated. It has that same type of consistency, but a lot more flavor. This doesn't really have that much flavor. And the mushroom's a lot cheaper than the wheat gluten. However, there is a lot of protein in this. And I know that as a vegan, you need to find ways to get more protein. And so there's obviously like a give or take there. I don't love the texture. It also could be that I made it wrong. Since I don't really know how to work with wheat gluten. The rest of the soup though, I totally love. And I don't often cook with nutritional yeast. I used to be like really into cooking with it. And so when I have ways to use it again, first of all, I'm like, oh, thank goodness I can cook with all this nutritional yeast that I have. But also it does have like a nice flavor. Since I've been doing all this stuff about soup, I feel like soup is high somehow now on my algorithms for things. And my TikTok homepage, when I scroll through the videos, is full of so many videos of soup girls.
Gorgeous, gorgeous girls love soup. Soup girls are the most popular girls in the chicken coop.
And now I feel like I'm also a soup girl because I've been eating soup for so many days straight. And I will continue to because I have leftovers.
I'm Ryan and I am from Malaysia. Today I'm going to be talking about ABC soup. The reason why it's sometimes considered a sick food is because it has the nutrients of vitamin A, vitamin B, and vitamin C. It also has protein from the chicken, which is really good for you if you have a cold. I think it's just such a perfect dish for when you're sick. It's because when you're having a cold and you feel freezing even though the AC or the fan isn't on, something about the peppercorns just make you feel really, really warm. Tastes like a chicken soup, but it depends on what you add into it. If you like more tomatoes, it'll make it sour. If you like more carrots, then it'll make it sweet. So I think it's a very versatile dish. My grandma and my mom always serve this to me when I'm sick, but even when I'm not sick, they still serve it to me anyway because it's one of my favorite soups. My mom especially doesn't like the soup very much. It might be because she's sick of making it for me. My favorite memory from this dish is that my grandma would come down from Johor to come to visit me in my state, and she would always cook this dish for me. She'd always complain that this would seem to be the only thing I'd ever want to eat, and she'd always get me to try more and more different foods, but I would always come back to this same soup. And even though she nags me about it, every time I'm sick or every time I'm in a bad mood, she still makes it for me. I usually have this even though I'm not sick. Maybe if I'm homesick or I miss my mom or I miss my grandma and haven't seen my grandma in so long, and I would make this when I thought about her. And nowadays when I get sick, my boyfriend makes it for me. I think especially nowadays when things are getting bad because COVID, and for my country especially, we had one of the longest lockdowns. It was very important for all of us to learn how to cook meals that our mom and our grandparents had made for us, to remind us of our roots and to make us feel safe and make us feel like this lockdown and this quarantine is bearable. A lot of my friends especially who couldn't go home, they started calling their parents and they're calling their grandparents to bond over their recipes so that they could cook it for themselves. And I think that's why food is so important, especially at times like these.
Okay, final soup, and I am wearing a sweater with strawberries on it that Rejik got for me, and I'm obsessed. So this one of all the soups feels the most like a soup for when you're sick, because the flavors are incredibly subtle. And when I say subtle, I mean I probably should have seasoned it more. But like when you're actually sick, this is perfect because it does have everything you need, but nothing's gonna like rough up your stomach. I really want to eat the corn, but I don't understand how I eat the corn in a hot soup. Like, no. If I'm gonna take away anything from this, it's that boiling corn in chicken broth. Holy schmagolies. It's so good. I've never done this before in my entire life. I already love corn on the cob. Corn on the cob might be my favorite food. It has to be on the cob. Corn I like, but corn on the cob, it just hits different when it's on the cob, you know? Even if you're not gonna make the soup, I recommend everybody to try boiling their corn in either like a vegetable stock or a chicken stock, or I mean whatever flavor stock, because it's like the kernels are juicy with corn goodness and all the flavor of the stock. Thank you all so much for sending in these recipes while I've been sick to help heal me. I hope that these work because I'm so over this cold. I do have another video about sick foods, which I am linking here. And if you don't want that one, I recommend looking up the comfort food episodes because it's kind of like, it's a horse of a different color, you know what I mean? I will see you all in my next video.